Basically, I was a wide receiver with no experience, and I was a long snapper that wasn't heavy enough. Had the experience as a long snapper, didn't have the weight. At that point, went home and was like, well, what am I going to do now? Obviously, got to get a job. And so then went into oil and gas and worked for 3 years, and then ended up signing with the Chiefs in 2015. When Frank was in Kansas City, we used to always talk, and we're like, man, we have guys that are inviting us to like come hunt our plays, come sit in our stand, and like there's a time and place for that, right? Like, man, it's more fun like when we put the work in, like we know the deer or we go scout the deer.
Welcome to Dealer Out of Office. We're your hosts. I'm Frank Zombo.
I'm Jake Burkle, and we are here to talk to you about dealers' interests outside of the office.
Now watch this drive.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Dealer Out of Office. I'm your host, Jake Burkle, alongside my good buddy, Frank Zombo. We got a good one for you today. It's a flu game for me. All right, I'm a little hoarse. We're going to push through. We're going to power through. I do have some lozenges in the old auto hauler hoodie here. We're going to make it work, but we have a phenomenal guest on, a good buddy of yours, a current member of the Kansas City Chiefs, three-time Super Bowl champion, James Winchester, on the program. What's up, buddy?
What's up, guys? How's it going?
It's going, dude. How are you?
Man, I'm doing great. We're a little beat up here, but we're rolling.
You got a setup behind you. I like this. This is first-class organization by Kansas City, getting you set up, making.
That's right. It's always nice to know a guy that's got a nice office.
Awesome, man. Well, James, again, thank you for jumping on. The whole premise of this podcast is like we want to talk about everything outside of the office. So your office is on a football field, which we're obviously going to get into, but we want to talk about some of your hobbies outside of that. But before we even dive into any of that, I want to know, who's James Winchester, right? Tell the people at home, where'd you grow up, kind of your path to where you're at now. Give us the background.
Yeah, so brief overview. I grew up in Washington, Oklahoma, so born and raised Oklahoma City. We moved to a small town south of Norman, town of 500, graduated with 52 kids, Class A football. I was not a highly recruited kid out of high school, but had a dream to play at the University of Oklahoma. I was a Sooner growing up. My dad won a national championship back in '85. He was a walk-on, so my older sister walked on to the basketball program. We just walk-on was kind of in our blood. That's what we did, and I just would do anything to be a Sooner, and so really didn't have much desire to go play for any D2s around Oklahoma or Texas, and so decided to walk on in 2008 at Oklahoma, and I was a small town wide receiver. Thought I was pretty good. Obviously not a Division I talent by any means, but decided that was the best position that I had an opportunity to make the squad. And so showed up in summer of '08 in Norman for summer workouts. Soon found out I was going to have a hard time making the team. Honestly, just a crazy thing. The veteran long snapper at the time, his name was Derek Shaw. He had partially tore his Achilles tendon, and so they didn't have a long snapper. Like, they didn't have a backup, anyone. And so I grew up playing quarterback, and I thought, you know what, if my dream is to be a Sooner and make this squad, like, this is just a way to, an avenue to make the team, and then I can continue to prove myself as a wideout. And so practiced as a long snapper summer of '08, did well enough, wasn't great, did well enough to get the starting job for the first 3 games in 2008, and then the veteran came back, backed him up. Flash forward, started as a long snapper, sophomore, junior, senior year, earned a scholarship. Continued to play a wide receiver as a reserve role. Really didn't see much time in the games, but felt like I was a pretty good athlete, and that was obviously the dream, to be a playmaker and play wideout. So came to a crossroads my senior year at Oklahoma in spring of 2012. I was I was a wide receiver with no experience, and I was a long snapper that wasn't heavy enough. Had the experience as a long snapper, didn't have the weight, so it was kind of in limbo. Only opportunity that I got in 2012 coming out was a rookie minicamp tryout with the Kansas City Chiefs, which is kind of ironic. But I was here long enough to have a cup of coffee, 3 days, and they sent me home. At that point, went home and was like, well, what am I going to do now? Obviously got to get a job. And so then went into oil and gas and worked for 3 years, and then ended up signing with the Chiefs in 2015. I know we'll get into more of that as we go.
So going back real quick, and you go into Oklahoma. So you walk on as a receiver. You're not long snapper at this point. What
No.
was the oh shit moment that I'm not going to be a receiver? Was there one that you just got, jammed at the line and knocked on your ass or anything like that, where you're just like, maybe this receiver thing isn't for me?
Yeah, honestly, there really wasn't. Obviously was fighting for playing time. That was kind of the biggest struggle. But I felt like, I was putting out numbers. I was, frustrated because I wasn't playing. But at the same time, I was our only long snapper. So I got quite a few talks from Coach Bob Stoops about, don't take this hit and don't take that hit because we need you as a long snapper. So I understood as a head coach, it made sense, like protect your long snapper. And we have some other athletes to play wideout. For me, I saw it the other way. I was like, you know what? I'm going to prove all these dudes wrong, and like I'm going to be the Rudy and going to come from nothing and just show these guys and play for and get some playing time. But obviously, as a walk on from a small school, with recruited kids at a school like University of Oklahoma, tough to break into that. And so, I always wanted to be a Sooner, and so even when I was frustrated and thought, man, I could go to walk on at Oklahoma State or Texas Tech and maybe go try to play as a wideout. I was living my dream as a Sooner. My older sister was there, my dad was alumni, and so it just didn't make any sense. I was like, I don't have it exactly how I want it, but I am living the dream. This is what I've always wanted to do.
Yeah. And then James, for normal positions, I should say, linebackers, those kind of guys. we get done with college, and you're either drafted, you're undrafted, and then you're trying out for a squad, or you're drafted, and you're on the squad, and then you're trying to earn yourself the 53-man roster spot. And then if you don't make it there, you're kind of bouncing to other teams, but you're still in it. If not, you're kind of going out to Europe or playing Canadian ball. For you had a very unique way to get in. And if you could talk about that little bit of a journey of being a long snapper and then what you did between, like, because when you're a long snapper, to talk about everybody, and there's only 32 of them in the National Football League. And once you're in that spot, those guys are pretty much, they get pretty tight with the special teams coach. They get tight with the punter and the kicker, and they kind of form their own little crew. So there's not a lot of turnover in that position. So it's a very hard position to crack into. So while you're waiting, talk a little bit about that journey from college is over, and I'm still trying to make it in the NFL.
Yeah, so I go back to my senior year, about, 3/4 of the way through the season. I was standing on the sideline in practice, and our team chaplain, Kent Bowles, actually walked up to me, and he's like, "What are you going to do next year?" I'm like, get a job. I don't know. This was the dream. I wanted to play 4 years at Oklahoma, and then I'll figure out life from there. That was kind of it. And he's like, "You ever thought about the NFL?" And I was like, "I've thought about it, but how does that happen?" And he's like, "Well, you're going to need an agent." So he kind of talked to me about I could go talk to this person, that person, and that was kind of the point where I'm like, okay, maybe I should try for the NFL, and like this could be a reality. But at that time, I still saw it as like I'm going to go make it as a wide receiver. I was not thinking the long snapper. So after I graduated in 2012, got to go get a job, and so I had some buddies of mine who were in oil and gas, working as landman. Obviously, you guys, the landman is the show right now, so everybody's seen that. That's essentially what I was doing on a smaller level. Wasn't quite up there with Billy Bob Thornton, but to that rank. But I was like the guy underneath Billy Bob. So, I had some buddies that were doing it around Oklahoma, and I thought, if I'm going to continue to try to work for this dream of playing in the NFL, one, I got to get bigger. I got to get better at blocking, and you really need to become a better snapper. And so working a typical 9 to 5 probably wasn't going to work out in my favor. So I'm like, well, so oil and gas work, it's more of a contracted style work. So, day rate. So really, if you wanted to take 2 hours at lunch, you want to work in the morning, 2 hours at lunch, go work out, snap, you could do that. And so I saw it as like, okay, this fits because it'll allow me to go work at, perfecting my craft and the weight room, and I can still, have a job that pays the bills. And so I did that for 2012, 13, 14, had a couple short stints, worked out with a couple teams. And really those workouts came from, there's a specialist camp out in Arizona, a guy by the name of Gary Zahner puts those camps on. And he's a former NFL coach, special teams coach, bounced around Baltimore, Cardinals. And what he did is after he retired, he started these specialist camps. So typically every year he has a college combine and a NFL free agent combine. And for a guy like me, if you're out on the street, you really don't have an opportunity to make a squad. You're not going to the combine. That's already passed you by. And so it's a great opportunity to pay a fee and go, work out. So usually he would take, 30 snappers, 30 kickers, 30 punters. And so I attended those camps in 13, 14, and 15 and got looks every year. Signed once with the Eagles in 2013, was there for 2 weeks, got released. No one in 14. And then 15 went to the same camp, and obviously that's where I signed with Kansas City through. But yeah, for 3 years just did oil and gas work, and was just trying to make ends meet. And I was only about 2 weeks, probably 2 weeks away from actually hanging it up. My wife and I got married March of 2015, and the guy who runs the camp, Coach Zahner, he gave me a call because I hadn't submitted my payment for the camp because I was really conflicted about putting that towards my wedding. Weddings are expensive for you guys that are married out there, obviously. So you want to try to contribute as much as you can. And I was conflicted about paying that. And he called me and said, "Hey, I didn't see your name on the list. Are you coming back this year for your third year?" And I'd been training, so I said, "Yes, sir. I'll send it in." And that was the camp that I actually went to. And Brock Olivo, a former assistant special teams coach in Kansas City, a good friend of Frank and I. He's the one who saw me out in Arizona and gave me an invite to come work out, and then obviously had the opportunity to work out for Coach Tobe and signed there, and then the real journey begins. So it's like you never have that like I've made it moment. You're like, okay, now I gotta I've earned an opportunity. Now I gotta try to prove that I can keep this thing and week in and week out.
Yeah, and I know I've talked to you about your story in the past, and it relates a little bit to mine. You kind of have these moments in your life where you make decisions, right? And you kind of reach almost like a rock bottom point. And I had this at one point. I remember coming out of college thinking, all right, I'm done with football. I'm going to focus on physical therapy or whatever major. I was a health fitness major in college, and I'm banged up from college football. I don't think I'm going to have a chance in the NFL. I don't know if I should try it. I don't know if I should waste that time or that money doing it. And I remember being like one decision away from not pursuing football anymore. I know you've reached that point before, whether it was a person, whether it was like Coach Gibbs talking to you at some point about, changing over from wide receiver or and focusing just on long snapping. We've all kind of had those moments. I also had a moment in my career where I was like, I had a really good junior year. I was banged up my senior year coming out of college. I'm like, I'm probably done. And I remember this like it was yesterday. We were playing against Troy College in a bowl game. It was the GMAC Bowl. It was after the New Year's Bowl, and you're just playing football. You're just hoping the football season is about to end. Like you're past Christmas, you're past New Year. Just get me done. And I remember like 3 plays into a pass rush, I overheard like the offensive tackle and the offensive guard talking, and they're like, and my confidence wasn't great at that point. Like I said, I was banged up, but I heard them 2 talk, and they said, and I heard them say, "Are they as good as they say? Is he as good as they say?" Like, did I just hear that right? Do these guys like talk about, because sometimes you go into a game, you always talk about a guy like, oh shoot, you better strap your helmet up. Like this guy's about to bring it. But I heard those 2 guys talk about me, and it gave me like a bunch of confidence for the rest of that game. I ended up having like 3.5 sacks that game. Like, and I wish I would just go into that game with that much, go into every game with that much confidence. But at that point I realized like I could play at the next level. Did you have any of those moments, or anybody talk to you and it just gave you like a new amount of confidence, or you feel like you had that moment where you're like, all right, I belong here, kind of thing?
Yeah, I mean, to piggyback what you were saying, I had several of those moments, but one that I can think of is, I was still continue. I mean, even after I graduated in 12, I was still like, I'm gonna still prove everybody wrong. I'm gonna be a wide receiver. I was just naive. I didn't understand how it worked. That you actually, these guys, these scouts, and guys that are obviously bringing talent in the NFL, like you're basing it off of what you see. And if you don't have reps, like they ain't going back to practice reps, they're going to game reps and see how you perform. And so, after that rookie mini camp, I go home and I'm like, maybe there's another wide receiver opportunity out there. And there's a gym in Norman called the Health Club. And you mentioned Coach Gary Gibbs. So Coach Gibbs was the defensive coordinator for the Oklahoma Sooners back when my dad was in college. So we knew Coach Gibbs. And I thought it was cool. When I came to Kansas City, my dad was like, hey, you got to tell Coach Gibbs hi for me. And Dad always, really respected Coach Gibbs. And so I saw Coach Gibbs up here at that camp. And then also I saw him when I went back to Norman and I was working out. And, Coach Gibbs, he likes to hit the elliptical. So he's over there like just zoned in on what he's doing. Frank obviously knows Coach Gibbs well. And so I walk over, tell Coach Gibbs hello. And this man is just staring straight ahead. And he had this way of like talking kind of out the side of his mouth. Like as he's working, like I'm working, you're kind of bothering me, but like I'll talk to you. But I'm not going to look you in the eye. And so I'm just saying hi to him or whatever. And he just basically said, I know your dream is to, play wide receiver, but your ticket in the NFL is to long snap. And so really it was that moment that just totally like 180 flip for me. And I'm like, okay, he's right. Wide receiver's not going to pan out. I don't have the experience, but I do have the experience and the athleticism. If I can just gain some weight, At that point I was like 207 pounds, and you need to be at least 235, 240 to snap in the league to be able to protect. And so I'm like, all right, that's what I needed to hear. So interestingly enough, the same guy in that gym who was actually training some other guys and was a trainer in the gym, I should say, a guy by the name of Pete Martinelli. He was the strength coach when Coach Gibbs was at Oklahoma, when my dad was at Oklahoma, and Coach Pete, man, he like took me under his wing. He just gave me a full nutrition plan, and at the time I actually broke my foot playing flag football, and so I would hobble in the weight room, and he would put the weight on for me, and I mean, there for probably, I don't know, 2 months, month and a half, 2 months. That's all I did. So I went from like 205 to 240. And at that point, I started actually getting looks as a long snapper. So that was definitely a turning point for me.
Yeah, love that. Before we move on to having Frankie as a teammate, and kind of, I want to just wrap up your journey into the NFL. And you mentioned just a few minutes ago that, there was no real like I made it moment, right? Like you get signed, and now you're kind of in the thick of it. 11 years later, 3 Super Bowls, what's kind of been okay, I've done it, right? Like I'm here, I've made it, I'm where I need to be. Obviously that happened, before those 3 Super Bowls, but what was the moment that was just like, I belong here, I'm a Kansas City Chief, I know I can play in this league?
Yeah, I mean, the first couple of years, I think anybody can agree. Like you look back, if you're in year 8, 10, 11, you look back on your first couple of years and you're like, why'd they even keep me around? Like you just don't feel like you had what it took. And so you're very thankful for coaches that believed in you and saw something in you, and that's kind of how I feel. I mean, I look back, I'm like, man, that was kind of rough, that rookie season. Like, I'm glad Coach Tobe decided to roll the dice on me and saw something in me. But I mean, with the success, I mean, by the grace of God, I landed in an amazing organization that was winning. That we were winning when I got here. Frank was here with Alex. I mean, we kind of turned things around, and so I wish I could claim that. But personally, you just do what you can do, control what you can control. And so that's what I tried to do every year. I tried to not look at what contract I was on. If I was on a 5-year or 1 year, I tried to train in the off season like they were going to bring the best long snapper in every year, and just like I'm going to beat that dude out. So became really good at competing against myself, like holding myself to a higher standard and saying like, this day or that day snapping, like it's just not good enough. You never really, I feel like for me, the way I look at it is like you never get to that point where you're good enough. You're always chasing it, and you're not like anxious that you're not there, but you're also like, I can be better every single day, because that's the truth, right? Like we're human beings. We obviously, error is a part of our being. So you're never going to be perfect. That perfect human beings never existed. So you should try to strive to be your best. And so that's what I tried to do. And again, like I said, like thanks to God, like landed on an amazing team with a lot of great teammates and coaches, and Coach Reed being here, it's been a dream come true. To have that success as a team.
Yeah.
And to talk a little bit about that, I can relate. It's you get to that level, you almost got to be your toughest critic of yourself.
Right.
When you're watching film, coach he ain't going to tell me something I don't already know. I can watch the film and know I screwed up here.
Well, you're a professional.
Yes. So at that point, and James is doing what he's doing. He's obviously the best. He's definitely the best 32 out of the whole country of what he does. There's only 32 of them, but he's one of the top tier long snappers because he did get his weight up. He's a fast guy down the field. We always say the crowd shouldn't know the long snapper's name in a way, because that's when they usually screw up. Ball goes over somebody's head or whatever. But James is well known in the area because, number one, he's big around the community. But two is he's down there making plays. He uses that wide receiver speed to get down there and make plays. When James first became our long snapper, and we had a very complicated way of blocking punt return, punt. But in Dave Tobe, who is our special teams coach, who's still there, will go down as the best special teams coach ever to do it. He had Devin Hester. He had, he was the one that found Tyreek Hill. And when he brought James in, there's a lot of like 8 box and 7 box and ways that the snapper is included in the protection. And when James talks about his rookie year, things moving fast, like it was tough for him to pick things up. Luckily, he was fast and he could get that ball back there faster than anybody. But it took him a little bit to pick it up. And to talk about experience and how that goes about is the longer you play, that stuff becomes where you don't have to think anymore. You're just reacting. And now that he's in his 11th year, he might not be as fast as he was that first year. But now now he's just reacting to things. When they're doing, he's got his head between his legs, snapping that ball, and there's 360-pound dudes lined up in his A-gaps, pick twisting and things like that. And he's able to just kind of fall back into the right position. And obviously he's got good guys around him that are well coached that can bail them out of different situations, but that's what comes with experience and all that. But yeah.
What I heard from you
that's
is that complacency means you're out of a job.
Yeah, I mean, they're always trying to bring somebody in there to replace you. Every year, Dave would my boy, the guy I looked up to, like Gary Gibbs, I looked up to, Dave Tobe, I looked up to, Kevin Green, my coaches in the NFL would tell me every year, I'm bringing in a guy to replace you. I'm going to draft somebody in the 3rd, 4th, 5th round, and they're going to take your job. That's why the NFL is what it is, and you continue to get better. And then James's situation too is like in Kansas City, they've been good for so long that you kind of keep that same core group of guys together. When it's working, it's not broken.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of turnover. Like I wasn't the fast. I was a good culture guy, good locker room guy, and glue guy. And that's what kept me in that's why I was able to play 9 years. And I was with winning teams. So they keep that core group of guys together until it doesn't work anymore. I hope that's not the case. I'm sure, Kansas City still got great years ahead of them. But you may see some turnover. Like now they're going to look back and they're going to say, it's probably us, and we got to look at what we got to do internally to get this thing right. We have a great quarterback. We got great player, whatever it is. But, that's why Andy Reid and Brett Veach are the best at what they do, our general manager in Kansas City. But, yeah.
Yeah, don't let Frank fool you, man. He was a heck of a player.
No,
I mean, everybody around here in the organization,
dude,
like Frank's one of the guys. He's the standard. Everybody talks about Zombo being this, Zombo being that. Like for our new linebackers, we've got some studs. Frank is always the guy that they talk about, like the technician, like Frank. But he was equally as great of a guy, in the building. And obviously Frank makes his way back every now and then to see everybody. And honestly, like Frank mentioned, we've retained a lot of the same people. To hit on that, like we've have a lot of coaches, athletic trainers, strength coaches. I mean, a lot of the same guys that when Frank was playing are still here, which is really kind of unheard of. And obviously everyone knows the run that we've gone on over the last 7 years. But we really haven't had a lot of turnover, which has been pretty special, especially in the NFL.
Well, the guy's still 6'3" and jack, so I think he did okay playing 9 years.
Talk about me or him?
Take your shirt off.
I ain't taking mine off. These are those winter months, James. This is where we get, we kind of cozy up for the hunting season. We get that extra layer.
Well, you see, all of us are wearing long sleeves, so that should tell you something.
No sleeve monster today.
I wear a shirt to bed right now. I can't have my wife see me like this.
just tell your wife.
Before, Jesus. Really quick, the people want to know. Yeah, we've heard, how great of a guy Frank is. Awesome. I love Frankie. Give me a good Zombo, fall on his face story. Give us something that, might make the old boy a little red in the cheeks here. There's got to be a good Frank Zombo.
Man, I mean, there are so many that come to mind. The one that I was thinking of, I mean, there's always those couple stories that you just always retell and they never get old. You always giggle about it. And like I mentioned, we still have Ryan Reynolds, our head strength coach, is still here. And obviously Frank's got some great stories with Ryan. We like to, even now, we like to tell Zombo stories in the weight room just while we're working out. It always makes us laugh. And so the one that just always makes me laugh, and there's multiple, but there was in 2017, we played the Cowboys in Dallas. And we, for whatever reason, we were flying a smaller plane. Maybe it was just because it was close. It was a 757, so it was 3 seats, an aisle, 3 seats, and used to, normally we have a lot more spread out, bigger equipment, bigger plane, and so guys have seats between them all. We were crammed in there, so I'm walking down the aisle with my bag, kind of half sideways, and I see Frank sitting there, and I'm what a great opportunity to just mess with Frank. And so I was 1 seat behind him, and so he's just sitting there minding his own business. And I just kind of I was I'm just gonna run this bag over his head as I put it up in the overhead storage. So I just drag my heavy bag over his head, try to mess his hair up and put it in the overhead. And as I'm putting it up there, I just hear this ah. And I look down and he's holding his neck and he's dude, my neck. So he had jacked his neck up pretty bad in that game and I didn't know about it. So it was kind of just a coincidence. So felt bad about that. Flash forward to the next day. I forget about it. I mean, I feel Mondays for us, you just kind of try to erase, get away from football. And so we happen to be down on a property. Myself, Frank, and our former fullback, Anthony Sherman. And so we were putting some stands up, doing some recreational stuff. And, they dropped me off to put a stand up, and I'm you guys go down and do that and just pick me up on the way back. And so I get done with my stuff. Well, I can hear the Polaris driving towards us. I'm of course, just me being me. I'm just I'm going to scare him. So I was if I hide over here, I can just pop out of the bushes and scare him. And so I perfect. I'm okay. Frank's going to be on the right. So I like jump over there. Anthony's driving. And so I hide in these bushes, and and as they get close, I just wait till they're about right next to me, and I just jump out. Yeah, I did something like probably did some kind of like, like sneaky, like something was after you, like some kind of wild animal. And I'm like, I just knew I was like, I got him good. So they keep driving, and I hit the brakes, and so I jump out in the pathway, and I'm laughing real hard. And I'm looking at him, and like Anthony, our fullback who's driving, he just turns around at me. And he's just like, not like that. And I look over at Frank, and Frank's got his hand on his neck going, oh, because he had got scared, turned, and hurt his neck again. And so like 2 days in a row, I got him. And the look on Anthony's face, I was just like, you know what? I'm gonna walk back to the cabin. And so I just went through the woods. I was like, I'm not getting in that Polaris with Frank right now. He's so mad at me.
Not as funny anymore, because I actually did just get a scan, and I do have some nerve damage, like disc issues going in that neck, because I used to strike with my hands in my face. That game against Dallas, and maybe Lindy can bring a picture of the guy I went against that whole game. It was, what was his name? Tyron Smith or whatever. Do you remember that?
Yeah, just Google that guy.
Yeah, Google that guy.
He looks like the Incredible Hulk.
I'll never forget this football game, because I was starting against the Cowboys. It was like Dak Prescott, and they're like, "Have you seen Tyron?" And I don't really follow football. Like, I don't know guys like that.
You don't know football anymore.
I mean, I don't. Back then, I didn't know like guys like that. And we didn't play Dallas often. Like if it was, like an in-conference team, I'd know who the left tackle was. And they're like, "Oh, check this dude out." And I looked at a picture of him. And he is literally like a 6'7" version of my, like normally old linemen are like kind of chunky. And this dude was just rock solid, humongous, like before the game. And I was like, oh my gosh, like watching film, he's just like picking dudes up. And then before the game, like normally when they do like welcome your Dallas Cowboys, like you get your linebackers are like they're towards the front. Your old linemen are like heifers, like cows that coming out late. This guy was holding the American flag, just leading the team out, like full sprint. And I'm like, good God, I'm gonna go against this guy all day. So that's why my neck freaking hurt.
Yeah, so that's the guy that jacked his neck up on
that
Sunday.
Game probably because our offense was so good. James probably had 3 reps. Big deal. He's probably fresh as can be. Scaring the crowd. I'm basically like getting held together.
I wasn't doing what Frank was doing.
Yeah.
So, anyways, I probably should have thought about that and knew that his neck was hurt. Anyways, yeah. So I watched this. When I saw it was probably like 15 minutes go by. We're back at the cabin, and Frank just gives me a nod, and he's just like, it was pretty funny, but like he's still like holding his neck. He's like, it was pretty funny, but like now it's funny after he blew off the steam. So
strikes 2 and 3 right there.
Good. Strikes 2 and 3. He lucky he didn't get the 3. Oof. It was 1 and 2.
Well, you brought up hunting, James, and I know that's a big part of the off season. So we're not there yet. You guys still have a run to make. What is this whole thing is dealer out of office, right? So when football season shuts down, and I know it never fully shuts down for you guys, you're still training, you're still got to take care of the body, stuff like that. But what is James Winchester doing when football's not priority?
Hold on, let me tie this one in too.
Okay,
James is a huge hunter. James,
bigger. Time out. You or him? Because I've seen your 4 little boys decked out in gear.
Yeah,
I've seen you decked
we
out.
both enjoy hunting. James,
that'd be equal.
Yeah, I mean equal. James he's more nitty. He's more gritty than me, I would say.
I probably had a little more like redneck upbringing than Frank.
More 100%. That's it. He's more of a redneck upbringing, and the story is going to tie it.
Frank was more like private school, like gated community.
Fair enough.
Soft hands.
I was like class A football, like in the sticks.
And we're bored. So like in the NFL, like in the off season, not there, but like OTAs, you kind of only like you go to work like maybe 3 hours a day. Like you it's not like
so
a very
like a lift, some film, and then
you're mostly hanging out with your boys. And for me, my family was back in Michigan while I was in Kansas City my last year. Right. So like I had a lot of time. I was golfing a lot. It was like probably the lowest I ever got. But then in the afternoons, and then James, I don't probably. And also, we don't have any kids yet either. It was just you and Emily.
We hadn't even had our first yet.
Yeah, so we have time. Yeah, like we're messing around, and we're like, James, like, you guys ever gigged frogs before? I'm like, what the heck is that? He's like, you get a spear, and we'll go and we'll gig frogs, and then we'll cook them up. And I'm like, where the hell are we gonna do that? Well, we had a good buddy, Mark, who was like, and this is like Wolf Creek. This is like a really nice golf course in Kansas City, and Mark is a big hunter, and he was like their club champion, and he would actually pull up, like he'd have these like nice cars, and then he'd pull up in a side-by-side, like Polaris, like all mudded up, and he had like it was a shotgun in the back of his golf cart, and if there was like, he hated squirrels, he would go to squirrel, blow a squirrel away, like on the golf course, and this is like a nice place. Anyway, he's like, don't worry guys, like I'm gonna get you into, Mark in his like voice, I'm gonna get you into Wolf Creek, we're gonna go gig frogs at night. So like in all the ponds, I got videos on my phone still of James in the mud of these nice golf course, just like, and then one time like a frog got out of his little, it was like half alive, it was like in his little bag, and it like bounced into the water, and James, no joke, dove into these ponds and has like frogs by the legs and like a spear in his mouth, not exaggeration, digging these frogs. And then we got like 10 frogs, and we had them in an old post mail, like a box thing.
Like box.
We got them out, and they cooked them up, and they breaded them up, and he ate them out of a pond.
I couldn't
Imagine all the
believe it. I was
fertilizer.
like,
These
man,
things
man
he's
hadn't
probably
had
glow in
like
the dark.
frog legs. I was like, they don't have bullfrogs in Michigan? I mean, like down where we're from, like
Did
that
you
was
do
like
that
a
ever?
thing.
Jump
We'd
in
always do a
ponds
frog
and like
game.
be muddy and
No, dude. I play on the grass on golf courses.
Lindy, we're gonna get away
Hey.
too. We're gonna put this picture. I'm gonna find the picture of James gigging those frogs and put this in the podcast.
I mean, I think it's like when you grow up doing it, you just don't think of it any differently. You're just like, this is just what we did. Like during the summer when it was warm and there was nothing to do, like go shine a light and find bullfrogs.
that's what he was
like,
doing. Shining lights, he'd
yeah,
find
it was
their
fun. I mean,
eyes.
I had a lot of memories of that as a kid.
There they
And
are.
then,
He'd shine
and
lights
honestly, being at Wolf Creek Golf Club, like the nicest golf course around. I mean, I was like, man, you normally like wading through like cattails and all that stuff. I'm like, these are like manicure greens. We're walking barefoot across here. Like this is the way to do it. and also my motivation was up there too, because like Frank was like, I'd never done this. So I was like, oh yeah, we're about to go do that. And we're going to take them, we're going to bread them up, we're going to eat them, like the whole thing. So we definitely gave Frank the experience that night.
Yeah.
So is it? I mean, obviously you're still in Kansas City. Is it? Are you more? Is it more deer? Is it more? What are you doing?
Man, it depends on when
you
it
can get
is.
out.
Obviously, deer hunting is no surprise. Deer hunting in Kansas, Missouri, it's awesome. But like they also have great waterfowl, turkey. So like I think depending on when you ask me, if you ask me in the fall, I'm like deer. If you ask me in the spring, definitely turkey. It's just like a seasonal thing. And you just get out when you can. And my son Jace, he's 8 now, so I know Frank's got a crew of boys. It's so much fun like getting them out now, like, yeah, I want to get out and hunt, but like it's such a different way of doing it because you like get to kind of see through their eyes, and you get to like, when you take them, like you realize it's such a big deal, but also like, I mean, I could care less. Like, I'm like, I like to get out and hunt, but to take him and see him enjoy it, it's just so much fun. So, I mean, he killed his first deer last year, a stud in Kansas. Can't believe it. I tried to remind him that like I killed a doe for my first deer, and this kid's got this like 13-point buck. Thankful to some friends that took us and let us hunt their property. And same thing, killed a big nice turkey, 10-inch beard. Like kids living the life. So yeah, he's we're where we need to be in the Midwest, and that couldn't line up more perfect. Being in Kansas City with the outdoor opportunity that you have for a small town redneck kid like me.
And then in the new type of hunting that James and I are in, these coyote hunting thermals at night, and you thermals with suppressors is probably the coolest way to hunt.
It's like zero dark 30 for coyotes. Like, now they have this technology that's available, to civilians where you can actually have like, you can go buy a thermal scope and go out and like see heat signatures. Like that didn't exist when I was younger. And so it really gives you an advantage, and it's a lot of fun. It's, a lot of camaraderie with it. And I know Frank's got into it with his guys, and same thing down here. We've got a couple teammates that are into it, and it makes for a good time. Now it's kind of conflicting though, because, in deer season, I'm kind of like particular about like protect this area for deer, but then like when deer season ends, it's just like it's all coyotes. So January, February, it's like it's on, and have a lot of fun doing it.
Well, predator control, especially if you like to raise a deer herd or you like to have turkeys on your property, like coyotes are the biggest nuisance to raiding turkey nests in the spring, or killing young fawns, deer fawns in the spring as well. So yeah, and you're helping that, so you're bettering your property, and that's another thing James is into is. James, talk about the property that you just purchased, maybe a year or so ago, and that the management process that you're putting into it, the hinge, I mean, everything, you're betting and kind of like that's more of your hobby now. Is not just the hunting and the killing, but to manage a property, grow a herd, bring your son, let Jace experience it with you. Talk about that.
Yeah, so I mean, I've always dreamed of owning a property, and the older I've gotten, habitat has become a popular subject, and it's also, from a conservation standpoint, I mean, it's good in twofold. Like, you better the property for the wildlife, but it also creates more opportunity because, you're doing something good that's going to like, increase your turkey population, increase your deer herd, and so which creates opportunity. So like, you find out, those who are conservation minded, like those who use the resource typically end up being the best conservationists because you love what you're doing and you want to put more back into it. So I've always dreamed of like owning a property. So we bought a place, a 240-acre place. A buddy of mine, we went in on this place down here. It's about 30 minutes south of where I live in Kansas City, and it's really been like a project from the get go. And if you're into the habitat, it's a lot of fun. So I mean, we had some guys come in and create bedding areas where they do hinge cutting and some flush cut where they just cut the tree all the way off. And basically the idea is dropping those trees in an area. You're making an area designed, you could say adjacent to your food plot where, where the deer are going to bed. And so it's really a cool thing where you take a property that, you walk in the winter and you look down and you look underneath and you look all around you and you can see, daylight. It's like probably not good deer bedding. And so these guys are experts at how they drop the trees and everything. And I can't do the work myself, but I'm learning. But we had these, bedding areas created on our property, and obviously had some areas dozed for food plots. And it's just been really cool. Like even, we're not even a total year in, and like the deer are already using the bedding areas that we designated. And, food plots are kind of a work in progress. They're coming along, but just to see the wildlife, get to use the place. And really the property that we bought, it was a goat and a cattle farm before we bought it. So like everything was chewed down. It was just down to dirt and rock. So now, we've had a growing season on it, and we actually have some good native grass that's coming up, and it's just really fun. It's just cool to see like what that can do for your property. And so, the old saying, like, if you build it, they will come. And I used to always think of that as like, if you just put in food, they're going to stay. But really the other elements of that is bedding. I mean, bedding, arguably is probably as important or more than actually your food plots. And so still a work in progress, but it's so fun. So yeah, I'm already thinking about, January, February, March, like the projects and things that I want to do. And it has a little cabin on it, so I'm sure Frank will be down at some point to come hang and check it out. But yeah, I mean, I think if you love habitat and you love doing those sorts of things, like it's just really interesting.
Yeah. And I would say too, is like a common misconception about hunters is we're killers. Like, well, they like killing, you see the pictures of you holding a big old deer, but really the guys that I respect the most and the guys and what I try to be is like killing is honestly the worst part of the hunt.
Oh, yeah, sure.
A lot of times it's the strategy that goes into it. Whereas like James and myself, you're putting these bedding areas in and then you're playing the wind, right? And you're figuring out ways to get into your property without them knowing you're there. And yes, I could go kill, and James could go kill a deer probably every time that you go out. I could go kill a deer. It's very easy to go kill a deer. But to watch a deer for 3 or 4 years grow and then to finally get that mature buck to get within 30 yards of your tree stand of where you're going to be, that is the thrill of the hunt. That is not. Yeah, and then once you make that arrow and you place it in the right area to make that animal suffer the least amount as possible, to die as quick as possible. And then while it's dying, that is now the worst part. And now when you're checking those trail cameras, like, the properties that I hunt on, you may have 10 cell cameras on it. And every night, you go to bed and then you wake up in the morning and you want to see which deer were moving around on the property. And it was so sad for me. Last year, I killed the deer I've been after for 3 years, called them browse, huge deer in Michigan. And then the next morning you wake up because you're like kind of autopilot. First thing I do wake up as I look at those trail cameras to see, where was Browse last night? Yeah. Was he on the property or did he walk around? And then it was like, dang, he ain't ever going to be there again. Like, yeah. I mean, he may be in my basement now. I'll get to look at him whenever I want. But
you definitely become emotionally connected, like to the deer that you follow. And, I think more than deer than turkey and ducks or anything, but, just because you develop history with those deer and it just like what Frank's saying, like, it just ties in, like it makes it that much more fun. When Frank was in Kansas City, we used to always talk and we're like, man, we have guys that are inviting us to like, come hunt our place, come sit in our stand. And like, there's a time and place for that. Right. But Frank and I used to always talk. We're like, man, it's more fun. Like when we put the work in, like when we know the deer or we go scout the deer and we've done all this work over the summer months, getting in, whether it's putting a little food plot in or whatnot, and getting that area set up. And then maybe you have, 1, 2, 3 years of history with a deer. Like when you finally get those opportunities, man, like that cat and mouse chase, is just so much fun. And I mean, odds are with a bow, I mean, the deer usually has the numbers like on his side, right? Like usually it's harder. Like we're kind of out of it. You try to increase your odds, but it's a tough thing to kill a deer with a bow. It just is. And so, the amount of times you see a deer that's like just out of bow range and like the thrill of that chase is just so rewarding. So yeah, I'm right there with you on the emotional connection with them.
And then talking about it the next morning, I mean, that was almost the funnest thing we'd have in Kansas City is every morning we had special teams meetings start at was it 8:15, James?
8:15, yeah.
8:15. And so we would get there at like 7:30, 7:40, whatever. And then we all get our,
Oh, yeah.
omelets, the bake, whatever. We all had breakfast together. We shoot the shit about hunting and whatever was going on. Most of the time it was about hunting.
Yeah, it was like
And
the outdoor table. That table was just like made up of 4 or 5 guys that were like. We'd have guys that would walk by and joke with us. They're like, "You guys all just talk about hunting? Like this is like the hunting table. Like it's all y'all want to talk about." And if they didn't want to talk about hunting, they just kept walking because they're like, "We know what they're talking about."
Yeah.
So real quick,
Good
James,
times.
and I'm not a hunter, but I got too many expensive hobbies as is, right? So I'm like, Frank's
have
invited
one.
me out. I'm like, dude, if I get one more expensive hobby, my wife's gonna leave me. So probably not. But you hear a lot of controversy about bow versus gun. I think some guys might like. I've heard. Correct me if I'm wrong. Rifles kind of cheating in some aspects. It's not true hunting. What's kind of both of you? I'm asking both of you as a take on this. What is truthful? What is right?
Yeah, I mean, I'll start. There's nothing wrong with it. I think because I think at the end of the day, I feel like what's most important when you start as a kid, you don't start with a bow, you start with a rifle, right? And so like you got to look at it as like as long as you're getting out, and again going back to that whole like usually the person who who cares the most typically is like the better conservationist, the one that's involved. And it's like you get involved, everybody starts gun hunting, and so I think what it's about is getting out and enjoying the outdoors. I think first and foremost. So whether you're doing that with a gun or a bow, that's your thing. But I think a lot of us have like kind of progressed from rifle to bow. So I always say like bow is my thing. I love bow. It's just so much more rewarding. It's harder. But I'm not like opposed to, there's a time and a place where you bring the rifle out and you hunt. Usually that's like late season. Frank will tell you, like when you're like frustrated and you're like, man, like this deer is a ghost. He will not give me a chance. He's like, he needs to go this year. Maybe he's the buck on your property, on your farm. That's like, man, this guy's a bully. He's 5, 6 years old. Like he needs to go. And it's like, okay, I need to put a little more, odds in my basket and like go after him with a rifle. So there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, that's how I see it.
Yeah. I grew up, playing for the Packers is kind of where I started to hunt. So I got into bow hunting right off the bat. So I was more of a bow hunter than anything. But then I'll talk to people in Michigan and they're like, and I kind of looked, not that I look down on rifle hunters or anything like that, but there's like a certain tradition to opening day in Michigan, November 15th every year.
It's like 4th of July.
It is up here. And like, and it's like in that morning, as soon as that sun comes up, you hear them going up, boom, 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 boom. And there's something to it that's been going on for 100 years, whatever it is, opening day. So there's a certain tradition of guys, the camaraderie of getting, men, women, doesn't matter. There's a lot of people that hunt nowadays, but getting together and doing deer camp. So I understand. And like you said, it's about getting out in the woods and supporting conservation by buying a deer tag, buying a hunting license, and it supports the tradition of hunting, right? So,
growing up in Oklahoma, southeastern Oklahoma, they would actually let out school for opening day of deer season. It was that big of a deal. In my area, unfortunately, maybe we didn't take it as serious. I guess we never actually got to let out of school. But I had some friends that grew up in southeastern Oklahoma, and they were like, "Oh yeah, we used to let out for school early, like for opening weekend." I was like, "Dude, should have been born and raised down there. That sounds pretty cool."
That's awesome.
Sounds your speed.
Yeah, that's right.
All right. James, last kind of question as we wrap this up. And again, appreciate your time. But again, being dealer out of office, we talked about hunting, we've talked about football. What else are you doing outside? I know you got the kids. Is that most of your time? Is there anything else that you're like very passionate about? What else kind of, drives you a little bit?
I mean, spending time with the kids, obviously as a father, like, whatever that is outside. I got my son a little RC airplane. So we've been like flying that thing around. So, he's into duck hunting. So he's always like, Dad, when are we going duck hunting next? Surprisingly, like I've never been Frank, you'll like this, we always talked about, plinking squirrels and stuff like that. I took my son squirrel hunting about a month ago and he was hooked. He was like, Dad, we got to do that again. And so it's funny how the stuff that you were like, I don't have any interest in that. All of a sudden, you have boys and they're like, I just want to get out and walk around with a 22 and shoot squirrels. Like, but I will say I kind of have like the meat eater spin on it. We made sure we skinned that thing out and we cooked it for him that night. So he ate it. I'm like, we're not just going to be shooting squirrels to shoot squirrels. Like we're actually going to hunt and you're going to eat what you kill. So, other than that, man, just this time of year trying to stay warm. So, obviously still playing, still have a few weeks left in the season, but any moment, an opportunity we have to get outside, we're outdoors.
Is he a football player, or what's he? What's his?
He's
sport?
gotten into it. He has. He's played 2 years, 3 years of flag football, and next year will be opportunity for tackles. So I'll be calling Frank to ask him how his boys made that transition.
Yeah, I got some plays for you. I've been perfecting.
I've walked into
Always.
Frank's office. I've seen the X's and O's on a sticky note, and it's still going in that brain of
A
his.
lot of drawn up plays.
Hey, as a specialist, playing in this league, obviously we're kind of in our own world. Like we go over on field 3 and just snap and kick and punt like all day long. So, it's been quite a few years that I've been kind of removed from some of the X's and O's on offense and defense. But I have a lot of guys, including Frank, that I'll be calling when I'm done because I'm like, hey, you're obviously an expert on that defense thing. Like I need you to give me the rundown. So spent a little too many years in the special teams meeting. But if you need a special teams question, I'm there for you. But offense and defense, I think I'll be making some calls.
I got to blow up his spot a little bit about training camp and the life. I think this is a good one for the life of training camp. We go to St. Joe, Missouri as a Kansas City Chief. In training camp, practice would start at like 8:15. You'd have to get to the stadium probably 7:15. You had like a 3-hour practice in the heat. Luckily Coach Reed would practice us in the mornings, which are good. You don't practice, and then you'd have meetings from like 1:30 to 4:30. Then you'd have dinner, and then you'd have to report back at like 6:30 to 9 o'clock. And it was every day for 3 weeks. And it was a very stressful time. You're in a linebacker room that has maybe 17 guys in it, and they're going to keep 8. So it's very competitive. Every day you're being evaluated in front of your peers on how well you performed, how well you did this drill, where your hands are placed, why did you get beat here, why did this and that, critiquing. It's very stressful. The specialists, they go into training camp and they've already gotten through the tough parts. They're at the top 32 of what they do. So give them credit there. But they would know that there's just one punter in training camp. There's one long snapper and one kicker. They're not competing against anybody. Some training camps may be different. But basically, when I was going, I was like a grown man on the verge of tears. And if anybody out in the world says, I can't wait to get to training camp, they're full of crap. Training camp is a very stressful time. You just got done with like a 3-week break. And
like PTSD. You're like,
and you're just like,
camp,
oh my gosh. Like it's just a haze. It's like a Vietnamese death march. It's just every day the same. Just boom, boom, boom. Anyway, so the long snapper, they can't wait to go because like our punter, Dustin Colquitt, he had like 5 kids at home. And I didn't really relate to it as much when I was playing because I didn't have all those kids. But he literally be like, all right, family, I'll see you later. And he's like, I would get in my truck, I'd put the sunroof back, and he'd be like, and just start cheering. Because he was going to go and he was basically going to go hang out with his friends for the next 3 weeks, have no parental responsibilities.
Yeah.
And basically he would go and kick for maybe 15 minutes. They'd kick, do things, maybe half a practice, do one live thing where they do field goal kick. And then they were pretty much done the rest of the day while we were in like all these meetings. And then we would get back and there'd be like frogs in our toilet, like big bullfrogs in our toilet. And we're like,
there's only 3 guys who have enough time.
It's the specialist. Yeah. And they would pull pranks on like Ryan, who was like he's now our head strength coach in Kansas City, but he was like new. He would have to do bed checks at night because everyone had to be in the rooms at 11 o'clock at night. And these dudes would pull different pranks on Ryan of like, they'd be in like thong bathing suits with like cigarettes in their mouths and beer cans and like all in the same room.
We always kept it interesting at bed check.
And like mess with Ryan. Dustin's got some I couldn't even talk about on the air the things he would do.
That's right.
But yeah, they had the life at training camp. So I have to expose them a little bit. Yeah, they'd be, all right, where are we gonna go look for deer tonight? And they would just go drive around and go locate deer. And it was like, man,
yeah, definitely. We always practiced in the morning. So like, that's like, go out, get your work in the morning, and then, had a mid-afternoon lift every other day. And these guys have like meetings upon meetings on starting the day back then before the newer CBA came in. We were 8 a.m., 8:05 on the field start, and it was meetings are like 9:15 in. So like these guys are literally in practice or meetings or walkthrough or workout from 8 a.m. And obviously you still got to eat breakfast. So you're up 6:30, whatnot, all the way until night. They're leaving meetings, going back, grab a snack, and they're straight to bed. And it's like the next thing the next morning, and it's 4 days in a row. It's just like a grueling physically and mentally. And that's kind of the base of your season, and for a specialist, as long as you're doing your job and you're doing what you need to do every day, you're like, man, I got a lot of free time. And like when I came in the league, Dustin Colquitt was there, and he is the practical joker of all practical jokers. That man has he thinks of stuff that you're like, I don't even know how your mind is wired that way, where you would think about pranking this guy that way, or think about bringing this or that. And so that was kind of the ringleader. Like I kind of had like just followed him. And man, he always kept people laughing, you know. And Dustin, to give him props, he used to always say like, it's not just about me joking around. He's like, you know, this is a super stressful time for these guys. Like, he's like, I love giving these guys something to laugh about, like something to talk about. I mean, so much so that like the next day, Coach Reed always got a kick about like, you know, what happened to bed check. He would always ask Ryan and Coach Rubes at the time. And so like, you know, those stories, I feel like it's good for the morale, good for the team.
I'll never forget those kind of stories. Like I still think of them all the time. I still remember the video you sent to me. I was already done. Remember the first year I was done with football and I came back and Coach Reed let me, he's like, yeah, come back. And he just let me, I was in the cold tubs. I had like a locker. I was in the weight room still working.
Hey, tell him how that,
I wasn't even on a team anymore. And Coach Reed, like I was just part of the team again.
Yeah, ask
whatever.
Frank,
I was drinking coffees with Tobe.
Tell him how that day ended when you
left.
Yeah,
then I leave. Days ended. I'm done. I had a rental truck, and I park it like in the parking lot. Everything. I get back. They put. Well, I don't know who did it. There's a bunch of sand because they would sand the fields and things.
Yeah.
They took one of the like
spreader things.
Not a spreader, like one of the small Bobcats.
Hilo, yeah.
And loaded the back of my truck with. I couldn't like all this sand on the back of my truck.
It's had to be like 2,000 pounds of sand like in his rental truck. I mean, the truck was like this, and like he's like tells everybody goodbye. Hey, so good to see you guys, man. Thanks for a good day, and like walks out to his truck. And his truck's filled up with sand. He's like, I got to return. I got to take this back to the airport. What am I going to do?
3 hours.
So
what am I going to do?
He was so stressed out. So he's like, guys, you got it. Because obviously he knew it was us. So he's like, you know, we're denying it. But he's like, we're like, all right, well, you know, we felt guilty down deep. But we're like, you know, we're not admitting it. But we're like, hey, we'll help you. Like, we had no shovels, nothing. We're like getting like sticks and like trying to dust like 2,000 pounds out of the back of his truck. He's all stressed. He's sweating. Like it's not the way he thought his day was going to end. And it was like, man, you come back to training camp, you're going to get got.
I still love the one too where you guys had that. You guys got a snake in like a crouching position. It was like a rattlesnake. In Kansas City, you have like in Missouri, you have snakes like that. And this thing was in like a striking position, about to go. And they set up a garbage can. So like when you come out of the locker room, there was like a garbage can on the sidewalk, and then to the right of that was the cold tub. So everyone's in the cold tubs like sitting. Well, James found this snake in like a taxidermied snake, put it behind the garbage can. It had a fishing line, and they're all sitting there in the cold tub. And as soon as like one of the guys would come in, they would pull that snake out from behind the garbage can and then watch what these dudes do when there's a snake at your feet. I mean,
thankfully we didn't give anybody a heart attack. You know, you're like, these guys are young, they can take it, but we got some great reactions.
Like one of your starters, and then you're in trouble, eh?
Yeah, they weren't doing that to Pat or Tyreek Hill.
No. Yeah. We saw Pat or Tyreek or Kelsey walk out the door. It was like, nah, just let them walk. Let's do it.
That's obviously a testament to those teams being successful, right? Yeah. Locker room and the culture that was there. So
yeah,
right.
I love the background stories of what it's like in a real locker room. It's not always grinding. There's some fun to it.
100%.
So, James, I can't thank you enough for jumping on, man. This has been awesome. Best of luck the rest of the year. You know, we wish you guys all the luck. Obviously, this office has some Kansas City stuff flying around here, just with Frank's frat room of an office I'm looking at over here. But a lot of memorabilia with you guys. And again, thank you for coming on and giving us your time today.
Thanks, absolutely, man. It was fun. Let's do it again.
Stay healthy, dude.
Will do. All right, fellas.
See you, buddy.
See you.